Joining us now, Steve Bannon. Of course, he's film Trump at War. It's fantastic. You got to see it. We linked it up on lauraingram.com, so make sure to watch that. But he's going to give us the latest on where he thinks the country is going tomorrow and beyond. And he joins us now. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Laura, thanks for having me on. Look, it's tomorrow's game day. If the deplorables, the people that listen to your show, if people show up, I think we've got this. If they don't show up, and right now the left is focused on this massive ground game turnout, it's going to be muscle versus muscle tomorrow, and it's all about turnout. Deplorables, if the Trump base shows up like in 2016, they will have the same faces they had at the Javits Center. They will be gobsmacked because they've been promised Trump's head on a pike, and that can be avoided if everybody shows up. By the way, Laura, if you remember, Hillary never made it down to the Javits Center. She never left the Mandarin, I think it was the Mandarin, or the Peninsula Hotel. She was taking a nap, and she got up and had a flute of champagne when she saw the early polls. Remember, the early polls had us losing like 400 electoral votes. So people should keep in mind, forget these polls. It's all about turnout. It's all about game day tomorrow. And we just have to grind this one out.
Yeah, forget the exit polls. The exit polls are almost always wrong. Almost always wrong. So don't focus on exit polls in your district. Wait until the votes are cast. And I know in the early voting in Arizona, the Republicans are up by 9.5%. Just an early vote. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, that Ducey, the governor, is going to win, or that McSally's going to win. Ducey's very popular. I think he's going to win easily. I think McSally's going to win by at least 5 points after being there for the last 3 days. I don't see that.
But by the way, you're the best call of this, because as Arizona goes, I think you're seeing, Laura, and you know better because you were there. But if people start coming home to the Republican candidates, I think McSally's a great bellwether. And I feel that things are shifting in our direction the last weekend. Then that's a huge tell. That shows you that independent and college-educated Republican women are coming home and voting and supporting these candidates, and that's going to have massive down-ticket impact. I've said we have spent, as a C4, we just support the Trump program, but we identified very early on where we thought the Democrats were weakest, that their eyes were so big on taking 60 to 80 seats, they forgot about these 5 to 7 seats they had to hold. Arizona won with Wendy Rogers is right in the gun sights, and I think Wendy Rogers could pull a tremendous come-from-behind victory because of McSally and Ducey in her own campaign, and this is the kind of thing, this is going to be won district by district, so everything's in play here.
Steve, I know you were campaigning and doing some work in Virginia. Dave Bratt hit that redistricted 7th district is much tougher because of the inclusion deeper into Richmond and also losing some of the rural area of his district. And Spanberger has gotten an enormous amount of outside money. How's that looking?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm from the Commonwealth. That's my home district, and I got to tell you, Laura, you're right. I think it's going to be very emblematic. I think they're going to focus at 7 o'clock at night. The national media is going to focus on Comstock and Brad, and people have to remember, and I told folks in the Commonwealth, there's still 3, 4, 5 hours of voting out west, in New Mexico, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Washington with Rossi, in California with these key seats. So it's imperative that people represent this district. It's going to be one thing over the weekend. Both sides were out, and I will tell you, they have shifted now to a massive ground game operation that they've got out from all over the Mid-Atlantic. And people, the deplorables are just going to, I was in the western part of the district to make sure that the Trump voters know how important it is to show up. If the deplorables and the Trump voters show up in that district, I think Bratt will hold it. But it's going to the suburbs of Richmond, the suburbs of Henrico County.
Yep.
You've got a massive ground game down there, and it's just the reality is that, hey, and look, this is the great thing about American democracy, right? You put your money where your mouth is, and you do the ground game, you knock on doors. They're turning up, and so that's why. Listen, it's like 16. The Trump voter shows up, we win. The Trump voter doesn't show up, we're not going to win. So it's your
but aren't they also?
show,
But Steve, aren't they registering a lot of first-time voters as well? And the first-time voters are people that are concerned are more likely to be buying into the Democrat and the liberal claptrap.
Yeah, listen, I think the millennials are a huge opportunity for us going forward. They've done a massive voter registration. Look, they raised a ton of money. That's one of the things they did. It's going to be interesting to see which of those voters, because those are really low propensity voters. It's going to be interesting to see which of those low propensity voters show up. Remember, our voters have had a history of maybe not voting in midterms and particularly not voting for rhinos, and that does not affect a guy like Dave Bratt. But as I've gone throughout the country and some of these other districts, it's we keep saying, hey, it's a proxy. This is a proxy for Trump. Forget the fact that this candidate may be a rhino. That's for a primary. You got to worry about that years to come. You can't worry about it now. You don't worry about that in Bratt. I think the thing for the other side is, do these low propensity voters that they signed up in this voter registration, do they actually turn out?
Yeah, my producer, one of my producers, is from Richmond, and so she keeps getting these 7th district. So she keeps getting these text messages. She forwards them to me. She doesn't know how they even have her cell phone, but it says Barack Obama asks you to vote for Abigail Spanberger. To learn why President Obama endorsed Abigail, click here. And then it says, who are you voting for, Bratt or Spanberger? And she responded just to see what they said, Bratt. And then she said, oh, really? Then another text in and says, oh, really? Have you seen this? And then it's some, malcontent feminist saying why she's going to.
But that's very sophisticated. I'm telling you, these text messages and what they've done, they've gotten her as ever voter file, and they'll try to convert. I mean, look, you hit the Bratt thing, they're gonna still work you. And hey, this is what you're up against. Look, this is America. It's this is an efficient market. These people have raised the money, they got into it. I don't want to hear no tears, no whining.
Nope.
That's the great thing about Republicans. The reason, Laura, I love you. You're as tough as boot leather, right? But that's the way we got to be. I don't want to hear any tears. I don't want to hear any whining. It's all about, do we show up tomorrow? They've got technology. They got money. They got all this stuff. They had it all in 2016. Got to remember, Clinton raised $1.9 billion to Trump's like $760 million. We were outspent by the biggest margin in history. We won because ground game, because the deplorables showed up. And even in the exit polls, you're right, they didn't even tell people who they voted for afterwards. That's where the exit polls were off. So this polling is all psychological warfare, right? It's just get out.
Demoralize people.
Exactly. It's on their shoulders. And by the way, I like being on our side of the football. The deplorables never let you down. All we got to do is turn up. Virginia's going to be critical. The Commonwealth, they're going to be starting at 7 o'clock at night. They're going to be focused on Comstock, Bratt, and Taylor. They're going to be going through all the intros of the suburbs of Richmond to see if Republican, college-educated women came home and voted for the Trump program, or whether they stayed home or whether they voted for Democrats. And as you can see from those text messages, they're going to be working people up until the polls close tomorrow night.
But I've got to say, Steve, the person, the video, it says, Hi, I'm Jim, a Move On volunteer. Have you decided who you'll vote for? And then it says, tons of people found that this video from Kelly in Richmond helped them decide. Then you see this, God bless her, this Kelly from Richmond. I'm like, whatever she's doing, I'm not doing. God bless her. I mean, this is not the picture of I want to vote for the future when you click on this thing. Anyway, so this is something just for fun now. Now we have to just show people what the left is really all about. This is Anna Navarro, the Jeb Bush-loving Richie from Miami on CNN with Chris Cuomo and Steve Cortez. Let's listen.
Sign me up in the category of the people who think he's racist. He has said so many racist things.
When you don't want to talk policy, you call him a racist. It's the scarlet R.
The Central Park
we gotta go. We'll take it up again after the election.
Central Park 5. Mexicans are racists, are criminals and rapists. He is a racist pig.
That's it. That's their closing argument.
But, Laura, I think this is quite serious, actually, that Steve Cortez actually is associated with my C4, and I think Steve does a great job every night on CNN taking in Cummings. What Anna Navarro said is beyond the pale. It's actually beyond the pale. She called the President of the United States a racist pig.
How is she still working?
If Steve Cortez had said that about Barack Obama,
fired.
I just don't understand I don't see how CNN continues to. She's a pure hater. She never adds anything to the discussion. Right? And now to call a sitting president a racist pig I realize CNN is triggered. I understand their business model. I know what Zucker and those guys are doing, and I don't complain about it. I don't whine about it. I see we have guys up there from our C4 that come out of our war room with our talking points and get up there to counter this. Cortez is one of the steadiest hands out there, a terrific gentleman. To have her refer to a sitting president as a racist pig, if that was done to Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, she would get the hook on CNN right away. It's unacceptable that they continue to have her on TV. And I think for that part of the Republican Party that still embraces her, you have to question what you're doing.
No, it's pathetic. Again, and whether it's her or Bill Maher in Hollywood trying to coax millennials to vote against their economic interest, I think we've learned a lot. Let's listen to Maher.
I want to talk directly to the millennials. We need you. Getting this moment wrong, you can say goodbye to reproductive rights, to legalize pot, possibly to gay marriage, and definitely to what's left of the environment. If Trump wins, he will cast it as a complete endorsement of his most undemocratic behavior. If you're 18 and that happens, you stand a very real chance of not living in a Western-style democracy for part or all of your life.
Well, this is... I have to say, they're not sounding very confident, Steve.
Well, they went right to the culture issues. I've said as I'm going around the country, millennials, and we got to get better in the years to come, but millennials are the new 18th century Russian serfs, okay? They're better fed, they're better clothed, they're in better shape, they have more access to information, but they don't own anything, and they're not going to own anything, right? The elites in the financial crash, and the way they bailed themselves out made housing unaffordable. They've got all this student debt. They have no savings because savings are zero. They're 20% behind today where their parents were at the same stage in life. It's all gig economy. They have no pensions. They have no security. The reason you don't have family formation, as every report shows us, is because of the economic anxiety and angst of the millennials. The millennials have one way to vote. They got to vote for the Friday job numbers. That economy, the high value added manufacturing jobs coming back to the United States that Donald Trump is doing by engaging China in this economic war they've been running on us for 25 years. Trump is bringing manufacturing jobs back, and with it, the future for millennials. So to me, it's very simple. You vote for the social stuff that Bill Maher is trying to scare you about, or you vote for your economic self-interest so that you can actually have a life and make your own decisions. It's pretty clear cut. I think the millennials will make the right decision. I think they're going to actually surprise us.
So I was at the ASU football game on Saturday, and I'd never been to a pack.
I saw some pictures. I saw some pictures of that. I don't want to. This is PG-13 for the audience. I saw some behind the scenes photos.
It was a Pac-12 game, and Steve, all I can say is, I happen to be a good luck charm in college football for the home team. When I go to the home team, they win. It was the biggest upset of the weekend. ASU beats Utah, ranked 16, and I'm talking to this guy who's just really smart. And we were in this friend's box, really smart guy. I'm like, gosh, you're so smart. And who are you? He looks at me. He's like, who do I look like? I said, well, I'm Steve Bannon's brother. He was great. Chris is a great guy.
He is. By the way, we're bringing you to the Army-Navy game to sit on the Army side with my daughter from West Point. We're bringing you to Army-Navy, Lauren. You're going to sit on the Army side this year.
I'm coming with you, Bannon. And I loved your brother. He told me all the good stories about you when you were a kid. Steve Bannon, thanks for doing what you're doing out there.